live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN. Socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Weekend Sports Extraordinary here on Atlantic Television Network. This weekend promises to be very thrilling because Rivers Hoopers are in a major competition preparing for the Basketball League. We see how far they can go in terms of getting ready for the Basketball League. And beyond that, in football, the Super Falcons are up for the lone ticket to qualify to play in the Olympic Games in Paris in a few weeks from now. How prepared are the Super Falcons of Nigeria? And across the continent of Africa, Rivers United is the only sole survivor at the continent. Can they get to the semi-final stage of CAF Confederations Cup? This question will be answered on this show this weekend. Stay with us. When we return from a break, you definitely will be satisfied with the questions and answers that come your way. Weekend Sports Extraordinary here on Atlantic Television Network, and I have with me this weekend Kingsley Emmanuel. Nice to have you, Kingsley.
Thank you very much for having me, sir. Very happy to be here this weekend.
This weekend is quite a loaded weekend because there's plenty to talk in basketball, football, and the continent of Africa here. And of course, it is with just about 7 games to round up in Europe, in the top leagues across Europe, and teams are struggling for qualification for European places. We'll look at all of that on the show this weekend. But first, let's start with basketball. And talking about basketball reminds me that in the last few days leading up to the weekend, we have seen the Rivers Hoopers, the team from Rivers State of Nigeria, playing at the Louis Edem Competition Championship in Lagos. They were in the semi-final stage of the competition, and it looks like they have been stopped by Spencer's Knicks at the Louis Edem Invitational Basketball Championship in Lagos. Kingsley, are prepared? Is Rivers Hoopers ahead of the Basketball League, which gets underway in the just few weeks from now?
For me, I think their preparation is not really strong as much as, of course, we expect, because you take a look at their performance in Louis Edem International tournaments, at this point in time, I think we've seen a little bit of lapses from this Rivers Hooper side. You take a look at it, they've actually dominated this tournament, and I think the last semi-final was actually the third semi-final they played. But taking a look at the fact that Knights of Ghana came to host them out from the competition in the semi-final, I don't think it's a very good one. We expected more from Rivers Supers, looking at the fact that they've been able to get about 3 foreign-based players into that team. Much was expected, of course, from them, especially going all the way, to lift this particular one would have been, a very huge statement of intent, of course, for them going down to the Basketball Africa League. But, playing third position now at the Louis Edem tournament is not a very good one, for a team that is going to play in the continent. Though you might say it might be a different spirit when you get down to the continent, but I think the best you can actually give down here in a local tournament like this can tell what, of course, you'll be able to give when you get down to the Basketball African League. You'll not be playing against, smaller teams. You'll be playing against defending champion US Monastir, APRO, of course, US AS Donne as well. These are the teams that River Supers, of course, will be playing, and these are experienced teams when it comes to Basketball African League. They have the experience. They've been there, I think 1 or 2 times, for some of the teams down there. So it's not going to be a plaything. It's not going to be something that River Hoopers will come to gamble. I think for me, for what I've seen so far, the preparation has not been top-notch. They lost against Hoops and Reed. They also lost against the Knights of Ghana, who, of course, they defeated last time in the finals of for the Lewis Edem tournament. And I think this is then time for them to up their game. They have to look for means, to improve and also get back to training before they actually get down to the Basketball African League. Because from what I've seen, I don't think I'm really satisfied with the level of performance I've seen from River Supers. They should be up there. They should be firing. I think for the teams we've seen so far, for a team that's preparing to participate in the Basketball African League and having to play the likes of US Monastir, AS Donne, and APRO, they should have done more than what we've seen at this point in time. But let's just keep our fingers crossed and see if probably they will have a different, spirit down there at the Basketball African League.
Kingsmen, that's what they are popularly called, talking about River Supers, the basketball team from River State that was at the Louis Edem Championship in Lagos in the course of the week. They were stopped in the semi-final stage. They are winners of this championship. They couldn't get to the final and win this time around.
Yeah, they couldn't get to the finals and win this time around, and for me, it's a disappointing one because the Knights team, of course, from Ghana, I think they actually played in the final last time, and River Supers got past them. But this time around, maybe they've actually upped their game and also beef up their squad, and that's why they were able, of course, to take down River Supers. It was really, really a very tight encounter. The Knights, of course, that team dominated the first quarter. The second quarter, River Supers were able to come back, of course, in the third quarter. But the fourth quarter was a very, very dramatic one where we saw the referee, of course, I think giving up, putting up a very hard decision on, I think, one of River Supers players. And I think it was a little bit tough for them. And we still saw the team from Ghana first coming up to take up the fourth quarter of that particular encounter. So it wasn't the best of performance for me, if you ask me, from River Supers. And I actually thought they would have done better than what we saw. It ended, of course, in 64-52 in that particular encounter in favor of the Sprinters Knights of Ghana. So for me, I expected more from River Supers, but from what we've seen so far, wasn't the best. We saw some players from the River Supers, team, the likes of Buchi Nwahu. He led 4 players in double figures. He was 1 rebound, shy of a double-double, as he shot, 19 points and 9 rebounds, in that particular. Michael Orea, he, added 11. Wi-Fi Ikoko and Michael Daramola scored 10 points in our piece. Those are some of the players that lived up to expectation in that encounter, but their best, of course, wasn't good enough. So for me, I think what I've seen in this River Super side is that they actually need a teamwork. They have to make sure there is more synergy.
What about the side and what they need? They seem to have injected a couple of players into the squad ahead of the basketball league, and this, do you think this will help them with a decent representation at the basketball league?
Yes, it will help them, but what I think at this point inside, they really have to have that much understanding between themselves, on the court. They really have to have that synergy, because without that much understanding or synergy, it will be difficult for them to grant out the necessary results or the needed results down there at the Basketball African League. It's not just getting players, but do these players understand themselves? Have they been able to train? Have they played very well to get that synergy? Good one that at least with this Lewis Edem tournament, they'll be able to monitor or of course, discover their lapses and work on them before they get down to the Basketball African League. But I tell you, teamwork is what they need at this point in time. If that could be that teamwork of course, you can see River Supers going all the way in showing a very, very impressive performance at the Basketball African League. No matter, of course, the team that will stand, on their way, is it US Monastir, APR or AS Tonnerre. I think teamwork, of course, is exactly what they need, at this point in time. They might not be the very best going down to the Basketball African League when you take a look at their group, but I think with that teamwork and that fighting spirit, from them, they can actually go all the way in making sure that they actually qualify from that particular group.
Well, we hope that the Basketball League side, River Supers, will do everything to ensure that, yes, they show that they were not inaugural members of the Basketball League for nothing. They were qualifiers for the second because of politics, they couldn't go. And of course, in the third edition, we saw, the team from Kwara did represent Nigeria. So this time around, they are back, and they will be the first Nigerian side to return twice to the Basketball League. And I hope they will do everything possible. I'm sure Ifeami knows exactly what to do with this squad, with the support of the River State government, and of course the Basketball Federation of Nigeria, basketball side, River Supers, the Kingsmen, that's what they are called, should be able to do well at this fourth edition of the Basketball League coming up. They have been zoned into the Savannah Conference, and it promises to be very thrilling because they have some very top teams, former champions like Kingsley did mention there in that group. Enough of basketball now. Let's quickly take a peep into some tennis story, and thereafter we'll look at one of our main issues for discussion, which has to do with football. And talking about football reminds me of the Super Falcons and the Rivers United. We'll get there in a short while. But first, let's take a peep into tennis. And Nick Kyrgios plans ATP Tour return seem to have been having some feats. What do you think, Kingsley?
For me, I think the man is fired up this time. He said he has a lot of fire in his belly, to unleash. Talking about, his return to tennis. The man has really gotten a lot of trouble, preparing for tournaments, and all of that. We saw him, of course, he had so many injury worries, wrist injury, he had a knee injury, and also a foot injury. So all of this, of course, has really brought a setback, and brought setback, of course, to his career. But the man has actually, he actually, opposed of the fact, he actually came up with the fact that he wants to retire from tennis due to the fact that injuries, of course, has been giving him a lot of problems. Like I mentioned, he had several injuries. He has a wrist, he once had a wrist injury, foot injury, and as well as a knee injury. So and that was a very huge, worry for the man, and he wanted to quit tennis. But the man has decided that he wants to bounce back, of course, to competitive tennis. And I think for me, it's actually a good decision from him. Not too old. The man, 28 years of age. I think he still has more, of course, to offer. There are players that are both 30 and are still playing, and at least, showing what they can do, of course, on the court. And for me, I think Nick Kyrgios is a very, very good tennis player, talented, of course, you would say. And for him to make up this decision to want to bounce back, of course, to competitive tennis after suffering several issues, there was a point in time he was actually being accused of, I think domestic abuse, of course, with his girlfriend, and all of that. So he has actually gone through a lot. And I think at this point in time, if he has prepared his mind, of course, to bounce back, it will be a very good decision and a very good one as well. To see Nick Kyrgios, of course, come back, to the courts. We've seen him coming up with several, performance, in 2022, he got to his first Grand Slam, final where he was being hosted out, by Novak Djokovic, and that was a very huge, one for him. The man has done a lot for himself. He last played, of course, in June 2023, where he was beaten by China's number 64, talking about Wang Yanbing in Stuttgart. For me, for him to actually made up his mind to want to bounce back to tennis, actually a good one. But I still see it to be a very tough one for him because we have a lot of young guys now that are in firing at this point in time. You could mention the likes of Yannick Sinner, you could mention Alcaraz as well, and the likes of them. These players are firing. Will Nick Kyrgios be able to, get into the mix?
Nick Kyrgios, he has not been able to play the whole of last year. He didn't play any of the Grand Slams, all 4 Grand Slams. He was absent.
He was absent due to injury and some issues around him as well. And for him to bounce back at this point in time, can he get into the mix with these players that are firing at this point in time? Yannick Sinner, Medvedev, Zverev, Alcaraz, You talk about Casper Wood and the rest of them. Can he get into the mix and compete with these players? That would be the big question, because I think for me, returning, he has to go undergo a lot of training. He has to make sure he's fit enough, to bounce back, because you take a look at the ATP now, looking very competitive, but you never can tell. Nick Kyrgios, like I mentioned, very talented. He can come maybe and take over the stage.
Nick Kyrgios, Australian, well known in tennis, but he was absent last year in all 4 Grand Slams. He seems to be getting himself ready to bounce back to the court. We wish him the very best of luck. And talking about bouncing back to the court reminds me in boxing of Anthony Joshua, who is set to jump into the ring as early as September after his last win. Is this good news for boxing fans, especially those who follow the British Nigerian, that he could be getting a 4-fight winning streak following his back-to-back defeats so far?
Yeah, the man is already on 4-fight winning streak. He won against Helenius, and I think took other fight before beating Francis Ngannou last with that heavy punch, of course, was sore. So Joshua in the last 12 months has been very, very fantastic after, losing that, fight, having that back-to-back defeat against Alexander Usyk. The man is very much, of course, in form. You take a look at that punch against Francis Ngannou, you'll see that Joshua is very back, at this point in time. So many are still saying that the man is not really back to his best. Francis Ngannou, not really a boxer to say, but you take a look at the way Joshua...
Why do people say he's not a boxer? Yes, he's a mixed martial artist, but he first started with boxing, and mixed martial art is a combination of boxing and that's a kickboxing. So he's not too far away from being a boxer.
Yeah, not too far away. Like I mentioned, aside from that, you take a look at the way Joshua dismantled him. You would never give it to Joshua.
This is one man who stopped Alexander Tyson Fury, if you remember.
Yeah.
They put him to the canvas.
Yes.
They didn't stop him, but they put him to the canvas.
Yeah, true. So you take a look at the way Joshua actually took it to knock him out, for that particular fight. You will say that, yes, Joshua is fully back now to his best, if you ask me. And I think if he faces, even though Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk at this point in time, he actually, will stand a very strong chance in fighting any of those boxers. So for me, good news for boxing fans, especially for Anthony Joshua's fans, that of course he'll be returning to the ring, by September, and I think it will be a very good one. Let's see if he's going to be locking horns with maybe either Alexander Usyk or Tyson Fury, because both fighters, of course, will be locking horns soon in Saudi Arabia, and whoever wins that one, maybe Anthony Joshua, of course, will be getting into the ring against the winner of that particular bout. So let's just see how it goes. But for Joshua, I think from what we've seen so far, the man is back to his best. He shouldn't just relent. I think he should still get back to his training camp and still build more, because from what we've seen at this point in time, anybody that will be facing Joshua now will be very much prepared, looking at, of course, his form at the moment. 4
fights, 4 wins, 3 by knockout. Do you think this is power has returned? Because in the past, when he had 3 belts, everybody knew that if you are going to fight Anthony Joshua, then you should be able to receive heavy knocks. And now he has shown it against Wallin and Francis Ngannou, knockout victories for him out of 4 fights, 4 wins and 3 coming via knockout. So Tyson Fury should be it. There is a Fury Usyk fight. Can that be another one awaiting a Nigerian boxer, of course, Nigerian British boxer Anthony Joshua?
Yes, of course. There is a possibility that Joshua could possibly face either Alexander Usyk or Tyson Fury after both fighters, of course, lock-ons in Saudi Arabia, very soon, from what we're seeing, at this point in time. So for me, I think Joshua this time around is not afraid of, facing either Alexander Usyk or Tyson Fury. After he won against Francis Ngannou, he said whoever is ready, of course, should come knocking, at his door. That is very much, ready. So I don't think he's afraid of fighting Tyson. In fact, Fury was even surprised with the way Joshua knocked down Francis Ngannou on that very day, because Francis Ngannou gave Tyson Fury a very tough time, on the ring. So from what we're seeing at this point in time, I think Joshua, has rejuvenated himself. His strength's back. He's no longer the Anthony Joshua we saw in the fight against Alexander Usyk. We've seen a very different Anthony Joshua at this point in time, and kudos to his trainer, who has also been doing a very great work, for the man. So for me, there is a possibility, huge possibility, that we might be seeing, Tyson Fury of Anthony Joshua, fighting the winner in that bout between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk.
Boxing fans around the world, September is the date. Let's see whether that date will see if it comes into fruition, where Anthony Joshua will be on the showcase or in the ring again. Well, let's go to football now, but before we bring you the latest happening around the world of football this weekend, we'll just take a break. When we return from the break, we first have to go to the continent of Africa, where CAF Confederations Cup matches are ongoing. Besides that, the Champions League as well are heating up the continent of Africa in football. Rivers United, Nigeria's sole survivor in both the Champions League and Confederations Cup, will be a topic for discussion. They are up against the defending champion, USM Algiers of Algeria. That feature comes up in the next 24 hours or so from now. But first, we'll take a break. When we return from the break, so much to talk about this Bayana in Nigeria, and we'll look at what they came here to do and what they will do in just about 4 or 5 days from now. Stay with us. When we return from a break, answers will come your way.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN. From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, politics. So catch all the
Back is a weekend sports extraordinary here on Atlantic Television Network, and we'll bring you the latest happening around the world of sports. We talked about basketball, where Rivers Super, popularly called the Kingsmen, lost out in the semi-final of the New Stadium Championship that took place in Lagos, Nigeria, ahead of the basketball league, Savannah Conference, where they are lined up against former champions of the basketball league here in Africa. So we hope they will be able to strengthen up. And beyond that, Vitula Nigrigos, the Australian, is back to tennis, and he hopes to show that he's been absent for 1 year just to get really pumped up for victory. And we are now having to look at the latest from the world of football. Kingsley, Rivers United. Yes, Rivers United, they are the sole team from Nigeria at the continent, both in the CAF Champions League and the CAF Confederations Cup. They play in the return leg fixture of the quarterfinals, having beaten their counterparts by a slim goal margin at the Gosford Private Stadium just about a week ago. Now in Algeria, Algiers to be specific, to take on USM Algiers in the return leg fixture of the CAF Confederation quarterfinal leg. Can they get to the semi-final? Going by what has been described by a lot of football followers here in Nigeria as a slim one-goal win.
Yeah, it was a slim victory for Rivers United. And going down to Algeria to lock ons against USM Algiers, tell you, it's going to be a very tight one for them. It's going to be a very, very tough battle for Rivers United. Yes, we understand the fact that some of their key players are back, into the camp.
Yeah, talking about key players back we saw that it was noticed that 5 of the starters were not on the lineup.
Yes.
Neither were they on the bench, but some due to injury, some due to suspension. All 5 of the players are now available for selection ahead of the second leg fixture.
Yeah, 5 of the players, of course, are available. The midfielder talked about Farouk Mohamed. He was actually suspended in that last game, but the man, of course, is back now into the team. The likes of Abba Suleiman, Victor Origbo, Shedrack Kusibo, and Chibuzo Eze Obodo are also available for selection after shrugging off, injuries, to be fit, for this particular one. So it's a huge morale boost, of course, for Rivers United. Looking at the fact that these key players, of course, are back into the team, I think this will actually help the team in terms of, selection and helping the manager of the side, talking about Stanley Guma, to know how to dish out, of course, his tactics into this particular one. I think the USM Orja side will be coming all out, for Rivers United this time around. And don't forget, they'll also be having the support, of the home fans who will also be there, be cheering them. You know how these North African teams, of course, they behave whenever they play at their home. You always see the fans, of course, coming up to make sure they give them that morale support to make sure that they get the best, down there. And I think they are going to be more energized this time. Last time they came down to Nigeria, where they played at the Goslakpabi International Stadium, the players were not that, fit when it has to do with, their, health, because from what we heard, they were actually playing that game during the Ramadan period, and we hear they didn't drink water, they didn't eat, and some of them, of course, didn't play to their strengths. But this time around, they'll be fully fit. The home fans, of course, will be there to give them that support. And the game will be played by 10 p.m., which is also a favorable time and weather, for this North African side. So for me, for what we're seeing at this point in time, they'll be coming all out for Rivers United. But I just hope that Coach Stanley Guma will be able to dish out a very good tactics, for his players, of course, be able to at least, hold this USM Orja side. For Stanley Guma, I think he should look for a means to see how he can put someone in front that will be able to convert, the chances. Because what we saw at the Goslakpabi International Stadium was the fact that they would have scored more than 1 goal, but they lost a lot of chances. And another thing is the defensive work, because, like I mentioned, the USM Orja side, they'll be coming all out, to get a goal and possibly win the game as well this weekend. So the Rivers Super side, Rivers United, I beg your pardon, should be able to make sure that they have a very good defensive work. The midfield should be very, very creative, and then the attacker should be able to convert their chances. I think that's that will be the escape route for Rivers United if, of course, they will get down to the semi-final for the competition.
Well, Rivers United, definitely. Let's look at some of the players that were on the absent. Farouk Mohamed, he's known to be a midfielder of class, and he was not there because of suspension, a card suspension. Do you think he can make the difference?
I think he can make the difference. Farouk Mohamed is a key starter, in the team, and I think for him to get down to that position where he always starts, all the games, it means he has, he has a lot, of course, to offer. And I think Coach Stanley Guma has also been relying on him on the matches, of course, we've seen so far. So for me, I think Farouk Mohamed has what it takes, of course, to orchestrate the midfield for Rivers United in that particular encounter.
Farouk Mohamed, and of course, 4 other players are available for selection for the team from Rivers State, Nigeria's Rivers United, that is into the quarterfinal of the CAF Confederations Cup. They intend to move into the semi-final. They've never been to the semi-final. In the last edition, they were knocked out in the quarterfinals, and let's see whether this will be. They don't seem to be having plenty of support from the Nigerian Football Federation. You will expect that being the sole surviving team, they should have support from the Football Federation. Though we saw officials of the Football Federation, at the Gospel Private Stadium at the last weekend, but in terms of, let's say, logistic support, this seems to be missing from a source available close to the team.
That's the problem we'll be having over time, Mr. Siri. Whenever we see it, we saw them at the continent last time, even at this stage of the competition, how much support did come, from the Nigerian Football Federation. We didn't see much support, from the Nigerian Football Federation as well. Even at the points, the fact that the only team, that is in the continent, they are not even playing at their home ground, and there be no effort even from the Nigerian Football Federation to see what they can do to make sure that Rivers United, of course, play their matches at their home ground. We've read on several occasions where Christopher Gray, the Commissioner of Sports down here in Rivers State, have talked on so many occasions that he has done everything he can to make sure that CAF approve their Doke Messimaka Stadium for Rivers United to be playing their home games down there at the Doke Messimaka Stadium. But what has been the effort of the Nigerian Football Federation in making sure that all of those things are put in place? That's the big question. We haven't really seen much, of course, from there. Even last season down to this season, we haven't really seen much from the Nigerian Football Federation. So for me, I think it's a very, very poor way of managing a team that is representing, of course, the country, in the continent. Everyone should be involved. Rivers United is not only representing Rivers State, they are representing the whole country. They are representing Nigeria. They are representative of Nigeria. So everyone should be in support, for the victory of Rivers United. If they go down there and be able, of course, to live the title, it is the glory of the Nigerian Football Federation. It is the glory of the country. It is also the glory of Rivers State, as it is. So for me, I think it should be a collective effort. The Rivers State government should not be the one, funding the team based on the fact that it's a state-owned team. But I think everyone should come to the party and see how they can actually support the team in one way or the other. So for me, if that is done, of course, it will go a long way in helping the players, knowing the fact that they are carrying, the country, on their shoulder. They are there, of course, to bring glory, back to the country. With that level of support, the players will want to go all the way. They want to make sure that, they try as much as they can, no matter how tight and difficult, to ground out a very good result, in this particular encounter. Already, 1-0 advantage for Rivers United. But you know what North Africans can do on a day like this, on a time like this. So it's a very stiff one, and that's more reason why we should have more of this support, of course, to the team. And the NFF, for me, I think they should do more.
NFF, the Nigerian Football Federation, must do more to support teams that are playing on the continent because they are not representing their state, they represent the country. And for Rivers United, it's even more, they need more support because they are the only Nigerian team left on the continent. And courtesy of their quarterfinal appearance at this year's CAF Confederations Cup, Nigeria can still retain their number of spots, for next season at the continent. 2 for the CAF Champions League and 2 entrants for the CAF Confederations Cup. So Rivers United deserve more support than they are getting at the moment. Well, in the next 24 hours or so, they should be in action at the State Fifth Stadium in Algiers, and we wish them the very best of luck. Sports Commissioner Barrister Christopher Green has done everything possible to ensuring that this team have decent support, and we hope that effort of the Rivers State government will begin to show in this future. It will be too sad if they have to crash out again at the second time at the quarterfinal stage of the competition. So we have to wish them very best in just a few hours from now. But talking about Algeria, play at Uyo, the stand was nearly empty. In Algeria, it will be an overflowing stadium.
It will be, definitely, and of course, you know how the North Africans are so passionate about their team. You know how they're so passionate about football as well, especially continental football. They're so passionate, their fans are so passionate. They can even go all the way, in causing some issues or trouble in order to gain victory, for themselves. That's how passionate.
Yeah, talking about issues and troubles from the fans, CAF, Confederation of African Football, organizers of the CAF Champions League and the CAF Confederations Cup, have come out to ban all forms of fireworks at the stands. They don't want to see fireworks, at this stage of the competition. Do you think this will be advantage Rivers United?
A little bit of advantage for Rivers United. I think CAF is just trying to play in a situation whereby they will be calm, in the stands. They don't want the fans, to get into trouble or probably cause trouble with this fire, because most of the fans actually use these fireworks, of course, to create one or two distraction, of course, to the players and to their opposition fans as well. So for me, I think CAF is just trying to see how they can actually bring peace and calm, because the North African fans are always very, very hostile. Whenever you're coming down there, to maybe win their team or get over them, they're always very, very hostile. They can go all the way to make sure that, of course, they get what they want at the end of for the day. A good one from CAF in curtailing that. But for me, that is not enough. They should make sure that they provide adequate security in the stadium, because you know what these fans can do. They can, at any point in time, want to cause a lot of distraction, especially to the players, on the pitch. So they should make sure that there's adequate security, because in a situation like this, whereby River Supers are already leading and they want to go and stand their ground and fight to get the victory, there's always problem. There's always trouble. This is not the first time, not the second time we've seen all of this. So we just hope that after curtailing the fireworks, CAF should make sure that there is adequate security in the stadium in order to curb any means of distraction.
Talking about adequate security and CAF ensuring that there are no fireworks in the stands during the fixtures of football here in Africa. We saw one match just a few hours ago. It was an encounter in the CAF Champions League between Ahly of Egypt, of course, former champions, against the side from Tanzania, Simba from Tanzania. It ended 2-0. Ahly of Egypt defending former champions there. Kingsley, this was one match they needed to win to qualify to the quarterfinals, sorry, to the semi-final stage of the competition. So now Ahly, courtesy of a 2-0 win, into the semi-final, but they had to labor scoring via penalty, especially in the last minute of the encounter.
Yeah, but I think surprising performance for me, if you ask me, Mr. Siri, Simba FC taking down, Ahly. For me, I didn't actually see that coming.
In Cairo, of all places?
In Cairo, of all places. You take a look at this Simba FC, Mr. Siri, we've seen steady progress for them in the last 2 seasons. Don't forget, they were the one that hosted at Rivers United the last time in the CAF Confederation Cup, same this quarterfinal stage of the competition. So we've seen steady progress, of course, from them. Now they are taking one team that is very much experienced in the competition, talking about, Ahly, a very huge one, of course, for them. And I think it's a very good one, of course, for the side. And they stand a very huge ground. Now, courtesy of that victory, they're able, of course, to amass about, I think, $900,000 US, as prize money of getting past, of course, the quarterfinal stage or for the CAF Confederation Cup. Huge one, of course, for Simba FC. We hope, let's just see where, how far they will go in the competition.
Well, congratulations to Ahly for getting to the semi-final. Of course, traditionally, they are always into the final. So Ahly of Egypt are into the semi-final of the CAF Champions League. One other team that was qualified for the semi-final spot in the CAF Champions League is Sundowns, Momoli Sundowns of South Africa. They were in action last night, especially against Young Stars of... it's difficult to say that when you see a team that can hurt you, come to your country, and then they were almost going to hurt them. Young Africans of Tanzania. You were talking about them. The Young Africans of Tanzania were the one that ousted Rivers United,
yes,
Simba.
Yes,
but again, talking about Tanzania, they have 2 teams right now in the CAF Champions League. They have Simba and they have Young Africans. It looks like the Tanzanians are the new football nation in Africa, because no other African side has 2 teams in the quarter at this stage of the Champions League. But we'll get to that in a short while. Let's look at how the South African side, Momoli Sundowns, qualified for the semi-final of this year's CAF Champions League. They beat them courtesy of penalties. Both sides could not be separated after 90 minutes plus added time, so they had to go into penalties, and it ended 3-2. And one man was the hero of the penalties, Williams. You remember him? Yes. The goalkeeper of South Africa at the African Cup of Nations just concluded a few weeks ago.
Yeah, impressive victory, of course, for Melody Sundown. And I think if you take a look at it, they deserve that one, because just like we're talking about I think a few weeks ago, a month ago, Melody Sundown is a team that has that high level of synergy, because these players, they've actually understood themselves and they know what it takes, of course, to play at this stage of the competition. It was a very tight encounter, just like you mentioned. They're getting down to penalties. They have one man who is whose eyes is very sharp, when it has to do with penalties. We saw how he was able to save them, of course, down there in the African Cup of Nations. And he still replicates it as well in the CAF Confederation Cup. That shows quality. That shows one man, of course, who is resilient and is able, of course, to withstand any pressure. Talking about Williams, and don't forget, of course, he was the best goalkeeper of the African Cup of Nations.
Yeah, Roland Williams
Yes.
was the best goalkeeper at the last Nations Cup.
And he's still, of course, he's still showing what he's made up of at this point in time. I think for me, it's a very good one for Mamelodi Sundown, and we just keep our fingers crossed and see how far they'll be able to go in the competition after that victory.
Mamelodi Sundowns are already into the semi-final of this year's CAF Champions League. We say congratulations to them, courtesy of that scintillating performances from goalkeeper Rowan Williams, the African best goalkeeper for the year 2023-2024, if you allow me to include this year into his pearls and heroics in between the sticks for. But again, let's before we look at get out of the CAF Champions League and Confederations Cup, Kingsley, Simba FC lost narrowly via penalties, to Ahali, a former champion of the CAF Champions League. Then the other side from Tanzania, Young Africans lost again via penalties to former champion Mamelodi Sundowns of South Africa. What does it mean? They are the only, the only country with two teams at the CAF Champions League. Do you think now that maybe we are having Tanzania overtake the other football playing nations in Africa? Because not even Morocco have two teams in the CAF Champions League, not Algeria, not Egypt, and the likes. What do you make of it? I'm not even talking about maybe Ghana or Nigeria.
Nigeria. For me, I think it's not yet Huru.
For Tanzania?
For Tanzania.
I think, but I imagine we saw them in very crucial stages last year as well. What they did last year has been maintained this year. Not only one, but even two teams at the quarter-final stage of the CAF Confederations Cup and the Champions League.
For me, I would still like us to keep on monitoring the consistency. Can they be consistent in this form in the next 3 or 4 seasons, and being consistent in this form in the next 3 or 4 seasons, can we see them in the final? Of course, that's when, of course, everybody will start tilting their eyes, towards what Tanzania are doing, at this point in time. And for me, I think for what we've seen so far, football is gradually, growing down there in Tanzania. Don't forget, they actually bidded to host, I think, the 2027 African Cup of Nations as well. That's to say that Tanzania, they're gradually improving, when it has to do with, football. They are developing infrastructure down there, football facilities, and not only that, they are also making sure that they develop football right from the grassroots. And that's what we're seeing, from the clubs, down there in Tanzania, talking about Simba and the other team, as well. So for me, I think there's a gradual football growth down there, but we still have to see more, from them. That's why the 2-season consistency we've seen, from them so far.
Well, we'll just keep our fingers crossed on that and see that from history, from what I know about the Tanzanian side, there is a methodical rise in football in Tanzania. They are really practicing professional ethics in their football culture, and it has resulted into two teams getting to the very crucial stages of the CAF Champions League. That is what you need to see when you plant. You just reap or harvest well. That's what the Tanzanians are doing now, and I hope that the other African countries will begin to learn what they are doing there. Just the same way Moroccans have been very methodical in their rise. That is the same way Tanzania is following now. We hope that Nigeria will one day learn what is happening in Tanzania as well as in Morocco, to see our football return back to the apex body. Champions League crucial stages, Champions League final, winning the Champions League. After Imba did that nearly 30 years ago, we've not seen any other country, any other team from Nigeria win the CAF Champions League. For the CAF Confederations Cup, no Nigerian club side has been able to win the CAF Confederations Cup when it has been remodeled as the CAF Confederations Cup. We know the days of Shooting Stars of Ibadan and Rangers International winning that one. It was called the Winners' Cup, but since it was remodeled as the CAF Confederations Cup, we've never seen a Nigerian club side win. So we need to see. For you to win, you need to plan the same way Tanzanians are planning, the same way the Moroccans are doing. For Egypt and South Africa. In fact, South Africa as well. Mamelodi Sundowns just won just a few years ago. So we need to start planning on this. talking about planning is brings to my mind the Super Falcons of Nigeria. They are planning to snatch the only ticket available for female football on the continent at the Paris Olympic Games from South Africa. Is this possible? Only a few hours ago here in Abuja, Nigeria, we saw the Bayana, play out. It was a very interesting fixture, though they lost by a slim 1-goal margin. But they believe that returning back to South Africa in the next 4 or 5 days, they will be able to overcome that 1-goal deficit scored by Rashidat Ajibade in the 43rd minute at the Abuja's stadium, MKO Abiola Stadium in Abuja. Kingsley, 2-legged tie, win, and you go to the Olympic Games in Paris in a few weeks from now. Super Falcons, they've done the job in the first leg, but a lot of Nigerians believe the job is not good enough. 1 goal against a team as formidable as the Bayana of South Africa. You need to score at least 2 or 3 goals so that you can go to South Africa and, of course, stay in the game and qualify for the Olympic Games. Can they really survive the onslaught? First, what happened in Abuja, MKO Abiola Stadium in Abuja?
Very tight encounter, a very cagey one. We saw at the MKO Abiola Stadium with Super Falcons, of course, fought very hard. The Bayana also came to the party. Don't forget, they actually prepared, had a lot of time to prepare for that one. So the girls, of course, were very much ready. They actually, played a little bit, of course, in that encounter, but the Super Falcons, held their own. We saw that penalty, of course, for the Super Falcons in the 43rd minute, where Rashida Ajibade, of course, converted that particular encounter. They showed resilience, in that one, and that is a very huge statement of intent that going down to South Africa, they can still stand their ground, to play the Bayana of South Africa. When you take a look at the performance of both teams, you definitely give it up to the Super Falcons that they have what it takes to get down to Paris Olympic this time around. The Bayana side here, they showed tenacity that they can possibly edge the Super Falcon, but I think when you take a look at the squad in the Super Falcons of Nigeria, despite the fact that they didn't have some of their best leg, talking about actually Prompter in that particular one, who couldn't actually come, and she was actually been replaced. I think the team still has what it takes, of course, to get past Bayana in that, but in the second leg of the encounter. The second leg comes up on Tuesday, and just a few days from now. So for what we've seen so far, it's going to be an impressive one, and from what we saw, I think the Super Falcons, of course, has what it takes, of course, to clinch that Paris Olympic ticket.
The last time the Super Falcons were at the Olympics was 16 years ago. That was 2008 or so. Yes, 2008. They've never been there to the Olympic Games. They were not there in 2012. They were not there in 2016. They were not there in 2020 as well, Olympic Games. Right now, they were not sure. Yes, they were not there at the Tokyo Olympic Games in 2020. But Paris Olympic Games is here with us, and we hope they can get there. Kingsley, can they be at the Olympic Games after 16 years?
I think it's very close. It's very, very close for the Super Falcons of Nigeria. I think they have what it takes. You take a look at the quality of players we have. The Super Falcons have Rashida Ajibade, Cesar Oshola. They have the likes of Chijle as well, and the rest of them. They are stars, quality players, of course, you will say, in that Super Falcons. And not forgetting Michelle Alozie, who has been very, very impressive, of course, for the team. We saw her performance at the FIFA World Cup as well. So when you take a look at these players we have, you see that they are players that can compete, at any level. And I think despite the improvements for the Bayana of South Africa, they won the Women African Cup of Nations, went down to the World Cup, and were able to prove a point as well. But I think the Super Falcons have what it takes, to actually, outclass them in this particular one. If you saw that particular encounter, you give it up to the Bayana, but I think Super Falcons, with the tactical brilliance of Coach Randy Wardrum, I think the Falcons, of course, has what it takes. When you take a look at the quality of players and how good and the chemistry as well in the team, of course, look like.
Well, talking about players at the Olympic Games for the Super Falcons of Nigeria, this squad we have here under Coach Waldron has only one player that was in the squad in 2008, and that is Tochi Oluhi, the goalkeeper for the team. All of the other players under the guidance of Coach Waldrom, never been to the Olympic Games before. Nigeria has been to the Olympic Games 3 times, and like I mentioned, the last time we appeared was in 2008, and one player, only one in the present squad, was with that team in 2008, Tochi Oloi.
Yeah, I think it would just be a little bit of means of telling the other players what it means to be at the Olympics. We hope, of course, she'll be able. Despite she's not the #1 goalkeeper, we have Chiamaka Nadozie, of course. She's the #1 goalkeeper of the side, and I think Tochikole being in that team, I think she will just share experience and motivate other players. And I feel that Coach Randy Wardrum should actually do better, especially when you take a look at the teams that will be facing at the Paris Olympic. The Super Falcons, if they qualify, we're facing teams like I think Brazil or Brazil, Japan as well. Those are, I think, the two teams in that particular group. So I think they should be able to beef up the squad, try and most kind, of course, to understand themselves more, because going to the Olympic, I think it will be very tough. Not what they're doing at this point in time against the Bayana of South Africa.
Well, we wish the Super Falcons the best of luck in the next few days. To be specific, next week they will be in action into seeing whether they will get that sole ticket that is available for the Paris Olympic Games. 1-0, yes, they can go there and play. If you score first, that will, of course, will count for the Super Falcons. So they have 90 minutes plus added time to see where they can snatch that ticket. The South Africans have been very boastful, but again, they too have worked very hard. They did arrive in Nigeria about a week before the encounter, and they did acclimatize, and they are showed in the quality of play of the team. Talking about South Africa reminds me that we have to begin to wrap up the show, and our Sports Extraordinaire for this weekend edition of Sports Extraordinary is goalkeeper Rowan Williams. Yes, he is the goalkeeper of Mamoli Sundowns. He has helped his country win the African Cup of Nations, you remember, by stopping several penalty kicks in the course of their matches they played leading up to where they were knocked out of the competition. But again, at the semi-final, but at this year's CAF Champions League, goalkeeper Rowan Williams, playing for Mamoli Sundowns, saved 2 penalty kicks a few hours ago to seeing that Mamoli Sundowns take out their opponents at this year's CAF Champions League at the quarterfinal. So Mamoli Sundowns is in the semi-final, courtesy of 2 penalty kicks saved by Rowan Williams. He ended 3-2 in favor of the South African side. Kingsley, what do you have to say about this African goalkeeper for the year 2023, now 2024?
Extraordinary performance so far we've seen from Williams. I think at this point in time we should call him that penalty saving expert at this point in time. He has showcased it not once, not twice, and this is another moment, of course, I was seeing him leading the Mamelodi Sundowns to the next stage of the competition. I think for me it's a very good wonder from him. He should be the man, of course, everyone knows to watch out for in the coming years.
Young Africans of Tanzania would never forget goalkeeper Rowan Williams because of those 2 shots he stopped in the penalty shootout to ensure that they could not move past the quarterfinal stage. They were looking at going to the semi-final after being stopped at the quarterfinal of the CAF Conference Cup last year. Now of the final, now they were thinking they will at least go to the semi-final of the CAF Champions League, which is a bigger competition. But they have been stopped by Rowan Williams and Mamoli Sundowns, Africa's best goalkeeper from last year up till this point in time. So that will be it for this edition of Sports Extraordinary. Definitely be back next weekend with yet another exciting edition. Until then, remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress. Always enjoy here on Atlantic Television Network.